Folks, welcome on back for another brand new week, another brand new edition of our Traders Talk workshop. Got Monday, I was about to say Tuesday, caught myself there early, but Monday, September 23rd. Great to have all of our students and members just joining us once back here again. Abdul, Michael, Barbara, Alex, Minas, one of our new trial members joining us here. Leda, Phil, Laureen, Jeff, Gillis, Andrew, all of us otherwise. Got a full house, as I often say, almost always say, but all of us back here this Monday morning. And tell you what, once again, as always, it always seems like we start off on a nice mover. Got the APLD trade at least here to begin, trying to make a higher high right now. Obviously this was kind of planned, a little intended here to begin Traders Talk by covering this move here. It's up about 11%, not the biggest thing out there, not the greatest thing since sliced bread, but why is it moving up? It's a very tradable stock. It's pretty inexpensive. Tradable, meaning it carries a lot of liquidity. The stock has some big orders out there, practically every price level out there on the bid ask. You got resistance here at 685, 683, actually, this is a stack. Talk about a stack right there. We just came off our phase 2 stock course just a moment ago. We got big resistance up top at 7. That's where you got your real big sell order out there. But even just showing level 4 right now, you could just see, pretty much every few pennies, every 3 or 5 cents practically is, 30,000 or so share sell order. So again, 7's your clear resistance on this trade as far as like big levels go. But you do have a little bit of a stack here, pretty much from 680, 685, 690. Students inside our trading room, at least, were with me earlier in our class. I see Phil, Laureen, Barbara, Gillis, Michael, Abdul, Leda, all of our platinum and diamond students at CTU. And that's something that we'll cover a little bit more later on today if you join us live. But, hey, the APLD trade, I always ask you where the levels are as far as planning them out ahead of time. But we kind of just covered it right there. $7, clear resistance. Now, if we do look actually back on Bookmap, let's see. Does it show more intently here? Yeah, it does. A little bit right here, a little CVP sticking out here from consolidation. So from all the consolidation over the last 30, 40 minutes or so, 670, you're just kind of seeing the peak there. But just in true nature of higher lows, you want to see it make that higher high, kind of just break through that stack, make the move up towards 7. Now, this stock, though, we've done very well on from the last 1 or 2 weeks. So if you just go back to the daily chart here, yeah, back from the last month or so, really dating back to early September. So ended up making a big gap up, had made another pop back a couple days after that. Does anyone remember, if you're inside our live trading room, maybe you remember, I'm just asking, if you don't, no sweat. Not an easy question. I barely remember what I have for breakfast each morning. But do you recall the news out on this stock with APLD? There was some news that came out recently over the last month, as we said. News that normally we tend to be like, wow, that's actually pretty big. So, it's not just some sort of earnings. It's not just some sort of, buyout, which buyouts aren't really good movers anyway. But, something pretty big. What do you got? If you're inside our live trading room, you might know. If not, again, I'm pulling up Benzinga, so I have the formal headline here for you. But if I'm not mistaken, at least, I thought NVIDIA took an ownership in them. If I'm not mistaken, I thought NVIDIA had some sort of ownership stake in their company. Let's see here. Yeah. This is it. All right, so here we go. Applied Digital announces $160 million strategic financing. That was with NVIDIA and other investors. So in summation, NVIDIA has a stake in them. That's basically what came out of that headline. So if you recall, probably back a couple of weeks ago in Traders Talk, go through these workshop recordings, and we had covered that move likely back then too. But that's how we're familiar with it. And it's not just like, oh, we remember the news and oh, NVIDIA. But hey, NVIDIA partners with a bunch of public companies. But this one in particular has good spread, good liquidity. It's well within our price range. So it's everything that you'd want to see as far as a potential day trade. Not only a day trade, this could even be a great swing trade too, given the news with NVIDIA of all people, or of all companies. But man, it doesn't get cleaner than this. Actually, to kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone here, I was going to go over this on a different stock. Hey, for all of our students here inside our trading room, always feel free to email me, every Monday morning before we start this workshop, josh@c2trading.com. Like to welcome aboard a lot of our new trial members joining us here. Andrew K, you got Minas, you got Jonathan L. You got a few more joining us just from over the past week. So, with that in mind, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me over a quick email, private chat as well. And Marcelo, one of our students, had asked earlier on a separate note, asking like, hey, Josh, is there a class? Is there somewhere where you could direct me for a better understanding of what CTU calls a Fausto flag? I can correctly or I can identify them, but I would like a better understanding to their meaning as far as the possible direction of the stock. So I was going to go over it on a different trade, Marcella, but this actually is even better. This is even cleaner. So basically, what's happening here, this is across from 10:05 in the morning up until 11:15 Eastern. So for about an hour, a little bit longer, ended up seeing this build resistance off of basically 650. You can probably round up here even and make it 650, 50-cent level. But 647 top. It moved back up here a little bit afterwards. It kind of nipped it by a penny, but obviously held and dropped. Well, when you end up seeing a clear resistance holding, over a period of time, you would imagine that the selling pressure is just dominant. That it's not like the stock is tanking, but essentially you're not seeing higher highs, and when you are, it's like by like just one stinking penny, and the stock just collapses back down. But what you're seeing here that makes the pattern is the higher lows. So, essentially with higher lows, there's hope for the buying pressure to take over. It's not official until there's a higher high, right? Higher lows building up, eventually a higher high. But the Fausto flag pattern itself is where you see resistance holding, though, initially before the higher high. It's kind of like an ascending triangle in essence. Give me a quick second here. Been on the stick since 9:30. Got another coaching call later right after this, and we got our afternoon classes here. So like I said previously, I feel like I'm the guy from NFL Red Zone today. Motor mouth today. But otherwise, you could see, top here holding, higher lows building here, higher high. Fausto flag building pretty nicely at that point. So real quick, I know you know the answer to this. All of our students here, just got to deal with me being Josh, the teacher this week. But when a stock breaks over resistance and it flies from it, it runs from resistance, you'd expect for that resistance to flip into what? Yeah, and to support, right? So even right here, like it pulls back a little bit, like on a few candles worth, and it's holding right over that chart level and basically 650 if you round up. But resistance flip, and then even on a pullback here, obviously it kind of just topped off a little while ago underneath 680 was the high. Obviously it could always hold right here now at this point, little chart level at 660. If it breaks below this, I would imagine that it's going to drop back down fast towards 647 at least, 650, 647. And I would expect for that resistance to flip into support, especially with the amount of buying that allegedly came in here, right? You have a clean breakout, but look at the buying that came in. Just looking at the volume bars altogether, right? I mean, especially from just today alone, that's by far your largest. So we'll take a look on level 4 one more time. Obviously, that was the break of resistance at 650. My volume dot's not even on. How about that? All right. Yeah. So obviously, big buys coming in here. Big dots, big balls coming in here at 650, 655, etc. But notice where it started from, and obviously notice where the iceberg order was initially in the morning. Notice where it topped off from, before the breakout. So the writing was on the wall for, this to lead to a higher high. Now again, to kind of just address that to Marcella, that's where the buyers are eventually winning the battle. When you're seeing this drop down here, you're not expecting Fausto flag later on. You're maybe hoping for one, but you can't assume Fausto flag at 10:17 in the morning. It's really more kind of when it's even building up at this point, you get the thought of it, the prospect of it, and then definitely when it begins to build another higher low and back up. So it's just to say, who's going to win this battle? Who's winning the sideways battle? Sellers or buyers? The sellers aren't actually winning it's funny, I just kind of rolled it off the tongue here, or will here in just a bit. They're winning the battle, but they're not winning the war. You know what I mean? You're not seeing lower lows. So with that, they're winning the battle. Selling pressure is winning the battle here, but who's going to win the war? Who's going to win the war here of this like sideways move? You're going to see the higher highs, or you're going to see the lower lows. And here we ended up seeing the chance back up to resistance pop. Pretty simple move, right? What was the other one I was going to show, Marcelo? It was Mobileye. Okay, so I just went like break even on this trade, and I'm happy I did, just because I figured today was a Monday. It's like not really much happening going into the session. Had another stock too that was making a little move, PLTR, but we were watching that more in class. So I'm just like flipping through, and I saw Mobileye pop up on my scanner. I jumped in from 13, got out at 1301 as it dragged back down. Just it's not making that big push. So with that in mind, the Fausto flag I was going to show her was pretty similar. Just it didn't really make that better push. So the top build out right here at 1295, 1296 price. And you could assume 13 to be that level as well anyway, whole number price. But either way, it breaks the top of this Fausto flag, higher lows, higher highs. Buyers win the, war, I guess, for now until they realize it's just a battle, meaning that they didn't really win the war. They didn't win the overall fight on this trade. You'd want them to, especially when it breaks this top and it's breaking above resistance at 13. So you're thinking that there's a case for this to really try and go. Even here, like later on, it tries to make the secondary move as we're finishing up the morning, but it fails. It just doesn't get the job done. So where you're seeing a nice looking Fausto flag and you're looking for that breakout higher, it's a great thought and it's a game plan. It's an intelligible game plan. So if you take that entry and you jump in right above the level, maybe even if it's over 13, like, okay, cool. Like that's a good thought for a potential breakout higher. But if it's not making that big move up, the same rules freaking apply, folks. If it's not making that big move up, it's going to make a big move just the opposite direction. So ended up pulling back down even here, didn't break higher, wasn't enough, gas left in the tank for that to try and go, tale of two different trades really, right? So just going back to the APLD, this was drawn out throughout the morning here. It easily could have failed. It easily could have made a lower, it easily could have flipped this at first, but then kind of slumped back off and then broke down here at this point. But obviously ended up holding strong, maintaining direction at least to make that big move shortly after. To go from 650 up to 675, 680 is definitely no slouch. That's not a small move by any stretch heading into the late morning. But how big is big? Well, we have our game plan here. We have our resistance up next to 7. So unless if there's something that really genuinely pops up that's larger than 7, then that would kind of be my thought to see it try and make the push up there later on today. I mean, that order has been out there on APLD since 9:30 in the morning. So, you got to figure, okay, that's the larger price to focus on. And if you jump in right over 650 here, there's a very good thought, very good prospect of higher lows, higher highs up to 7. It's the same exact thought, although it wasn't a Fausto flag on PLTR from the 3650. We finished up with this in class where resistance expectedly flipped into support at 3750, and we're looking for 38. We're saying like, oh, it shakes back down here. Well, hey, there's plenty of times, especially heading into this time of the day, where I don't mind going break even, or I'll take like a +1 or a -2, like whatever the hell. It's like all break even there to me. If it's not like a -6 or not like a +20, it's not really something I'm like caring too much about. I'll kind of label it as a break even. But even here, this is dragging back down. All right, well, the game plan was here on this trade in class that we had 3750 resistance flipping into support. So I'd rather see it break below 3750 and take the dinky -1, -2 than get spooked out here when there's a better game plan ahead. There's a better level ahead here to focus on as far as the target goes. So as long as we keep seeing higher lows, there's a chance for a higher high. And this isn't a Fausto flag as much here. I'm kind of tailing off back into a different trade to analyze, but more or less, it's just to say it's the same pattern. Who's going to win this war? Who's going to win the war? Maybe sellers could win the battle at one point in the morning, but if the stock is still making higher lows, then the war hasn't been won just yet, and there's a case for the higher high later on where the buyers really take over. So that's kind of what I'm looking for there. Now, really quick, just Samsung didn't link with NVIDIA. Yes. So Sam is first to the punch right there in the chat, just inside our live trading room. He then says as a follow-up, on APLD, there is more volume pushing the stock above 650. On Mobileye, MBLY, the stock was falling, or the volume, was falling off. I can't read. So could that be an indicator that the stock would not do a big push? Pretty much. And that's like what we covered for like 60 minutes in class, basically, just earlier in the phase 2. So, I definitely recommend for all of our members here to join us, all throughout our curriculum. But, phase 1 is all PowerPoint stuff, aside from the last one, book map. But, just to say at least phase 2 is a lot more live market where we were just going through this like with a fine tooth comb and, going over the whole setup there. So, yeah, on the MBLY, if you relate it back to that, it's very similar where overall there's not enough momentum. But who's to say that there won't be, momentum on a level break? So it's kind of an easy comment to make after the fact, but it's something that you definitely need to think about if you're taking an entry. If you're taking an entry and the stock wasn't like really showing, how do I phrase this? If you're taking a trade, I mean, this was a great entry that I had, honestly, because it's moving back up. It's a retest of resistance. It's exactly what I feel most confident on. But it's to say, though, that it's up 4%. It's not up 14%. It's not at the top of the gainers list. It didn't make a great pre-market move. Is it possible it can? 100%. And with this, there's a pretty good thought of it right here at this point. But if we're not seeing that volume come in, if that foot is not being put on the gas pedal, if you don't have a heavy foot afterwards on the stock, then it's more prone to just go in reverse for you, right? That's what we teach even in phase one, but we just came off that to a lot larger level here in phase two. Yeah, that was pretty much it though. So we went over a few things right there in that quick summation, right? We did the APLD, the PLTR. Maybe we can go back into a little bit if you want me to. We can dissect this trade pretty much from head to toe. You could basically say the rebreak over 37 was really what led it to pop. It had some resistance early in the morning there. From Friday afternoon, big pop as well. So the more buying coming in, not really much of a surprise that this led to a breakout shortly afterwards. I'd called it out, but my focus, to be transparent this morning, we're on like the gainers list stocks. It was the TGL, it was the KAVL, which was even better. That was a hell of a move that we had this morning. So, you can't catch them all, right? I am not going to trade the same stock every single day because there's simply just going to be days where it doesn't perform as well, days where it has down days, days where it just is in consolidation. But then on the flip side, how much opportunity am I missing if I'm just drawn to the same stock every day, all day? There's stocks making other moves off of other news that comes out. Hell, APLD, we just said a moment ago with like NVIDIA. How could you ignore that? So this is like kind of a small discussion, at least, that I'll kind of save for class as far as like psychology goes. I came off a few coaching sessions just from last week. I directly remember these conversations where, a number of students, 2 or 3 altogether, were saying, basically they feel like they're just missing out so much on stocks that are moving without them. And, we kind of had like a 5 or 10, it was probably longer, it was like 10, 15-minute conversation. And I kind of stopped each of them in their tracks. Like I had this agenda set up. And, I was kind of saying like, well, hey, really quick, let me just stop you. I'm like, for like the last 15 minutes, right? We've just been talking that we've just been missing out on like Apple. Apple made a nice move up at the time. And we just missed out on Apple. What about PLTR? In the last 15, 20 minutes, we just missed out on a huge move there at the time it was on PLTR. So, I kind of kept going through like, we missed out on this stock, that stock, this. Guys, we're going to miss out on 99% of the moves out there, right? Or even more. As far as like how many publicly listed stocks are out there that move throughout the day, then at least the ones that fall through our criteria, we're not going to be drawn to every stock under the sun. And there's not a need to try and be, less is more. I was working with one student, unnamed. I never disclose name on this stuff, but I will mention I have a new student that I definitely told them pretty intently, like, you got to cut back on the amount of stocks that you're looking at on one screen. I think they're looking at like 12 stocks on one screen, 12 charts. And I've been there. Trust me. I've been working with Fausto now. My 10-year Annie's coming up in 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today, pretty much. That's where I could tell you I've been in your shoes pretty much in every essence. I haven't blown up a singular account. I've lost a shit ton of money though in the past though. Trading crypto, not as much stocks. I learned my lesson the hard way on crypto. Save that story for another day at least. But trust me, old Josh here lost some money in crypto back like 4 years ago. But that's where I'll tell you though, like with stocks, I've had other lessons learned too for you to not learn them yourself. I try and express this stuff to you for you to not learn the hard way. So here, at least with PLTR or APLD or this stock, that stock, less is more. Just trust me there. Less is more. You're going to have an easier time focusing in on 4 stocks than you will 14. You're going to have an easier time focusing on 2 stocks compared to 4 stocks. So there's always middle ground that we got to work with. You can't just be drawn to one, right? And the same one every day. But, even just focusing on just one stock and that's it throughout the first 10 minutes, 5 minutes, you got to have a couple, have like, small group, like 2, 3, we teach that all throughout our classes, the coaching program, especially in the morning sessions, because, let me ask. I'll ask Lynn and Randy and Gillis, Sam, and Barbara and all of our students here in chat right now. And we got some other names out here right now too. I have like a full house here today, about 126 of us joining us live right now. If they're at their desks or not, though. We got Dave, we got Brian, we got Dale, we got Roseanne, we got Alex, we got Larry, we got Tim, we got Charlene, Doug, Kerry, Alex, got Brad, DJ, Andrea, Marcella. Got a lot of us here, right? What time do you get to your desk in the morning? What time do you get to your desk at the start of the morning here? Like when you're kind of, at your desk with your coffee, you're ready to go. What time are you at your desk? And if you don't mind putting in an Eastern time, please. I know we're all spread throughout the country, around the globe. A bunch of us here prior to 8 o'clock. I should have set this up as a poll question. That's on me. Should have set this up as a poll question. But Barbara says about 8 a.m. Eastern time. Charlene says about 6:30, but I think that she's on the West Coast, maybe, or on Mountain time, perhaps. And if she's on the East Coast, then I'd say that, hey, I understand, because you might be in a situation where you could only trade pre-market. That's a little different, right? I think that's Charlene's situation there. Anton says 7:30 Eastern time. Sam says 8 to 8:30 Eastern time, sometimes 7:45. Yeah, so, majority of us, if not all of us, if not mistaken, are at their desk with an hour prior to the market opening up. 1 hour, 60 minutes, 3,600 seconds. It's to say, at least, that there's a lot of time for you to plan your levels out, to know, your list of 2 or 3 stocks, to, look at the icebergs within those 2 or 3 stocks. Are there going to be other stocks making a move after 9:30? Of course. And again, this is going to be a conversation I'll kind of stop in right now, stopping the tracks on right now. We'll save for class on Friday, even not even later today, but actually Friday at the end of this week, we'll have that exact conversation with preparing to trade the market open, preparing to trade the market close. Break out my PowerPoint slide here as I had intent. There we go. So we're going to be doing that all on Friday this week. Classes 11 and 12 of the Phase 2 stock course. I always like to tat our classes when I can, because we have members on social media joining us. We have non-students that are just members inside our trading room that don't have access to any of this just yet. You might only have access to Phase 1. You're missing out on a huge portion of the strategy that we discuss in Phase 2. But that'll be coming up later on this week on Friday, classes 11 and 12 for September. All right. Now, with that in mind, the purpose of Traders Talk, well, we tend to go over different moves that we've caught from, the last morning or so, from the last couple of trading days, if we go back. But otherwise, there are a bunch of different emails that were sent in, questions from students that were sent in earlier. So again, we always suggest send it right over to my email address, josh@ctutrading.com. If you're joining us on social media, just type that out to you right here. I have no problem sharing that with you here. But otherwise, just scan that QR code on the top left of the stream if you're on social media, Facebook Live, etc. Just join our live trading room for a week-long trial, and then from there, otherwise, get direct communication with us, Fausto, myself, the other instructors here as well, and really the full camaraderie of our main chat board with our students. So really quick, let's go through the inbox here. Let's see, what do we got? Not as much spam this week. Less spam and more good stuff, thankfully. All right. So from Kerry, and it sent in a couple questions here in this one. So she says, I know that Fausto went to that NASDAQ info session on AI and the NASDAQ, etc. I'm sure that you both mentioned feedback the next day, but I missed it. Can you elaborate? So I'll be transparent there, Kerry. I don't recall what Fausto had mentioned about that. I think that he said that he was doing that, was it Thursday, Friday. I will remind him to bring it up, though, at least tomorrow morning. So I appreciate you bringing that up. Tomorrow morning, I'll have Fausto at least go over that. If he hasn't already, then he will. He will go over it again, though, otherwise, because I missed out on that part as well. So yeah, absolutely. Fausto, I know, went to a NASDAQ affiliated event where they ended up, or sponsored event, where they went over like AI and the future of AI. So yeah, it was pretty unique from what Fausto had mentioned before he had ended up going, but he'll have you, or he'll go over that for you tomorrow morning. Now, she also asks, can you go over why, quote unquote, higher highs and quote unquote lower lows are so important versus just noting a stock is moving up or moving down? Yeah, absolutely. So great question, by the way, actually. So PLTR, actually no need to change the channel. This is a great stock to keep on here. So PLTR didn't go up in a straight trend, didn't go up in a straight line. Right now, more than anything, it's flat. And I say that now because, well, actually pretty evidently here, really from 12 o'clock since we started, it's been like in a tight range. But even prior to that, it wasn't really doing much here. Like, it made a higher high, but it pulled back down within this resistance area, we'll just call it. It was building resistance here, kind of pulled back under it. And from that point, it's really been flat. But even before that, the stock wasn't moving up in a perfect line and a perfect trend. And even when it was beginning to work off of one from certain lows, it wasn't perfect. It was kind of just chopping around here and there. Then it had pulled back, going into 1030. So is it going to continue to make lower lows? Is it going to continue to drop, or is it going to try and move back up? If it decides to try and build this support here, there's no guarantee it makes a move all the way up to that 38 resistance that we were looking at earlier in class. But that's where I say with higher lows, it provides the prospect of it, meaning that this stock is not going to just keep moving up, quote unquote. Like hell, it might just stop moving up. It might eventually break a lower low and tank. But otherwise, even here, in relation to the previous dips that it made earlier this morning, the stock is still in good standing. It's still in good faith as far as a day trade goes for today. As far as a swing trade goes, obviously, this thing is like the hottest thing under the sun. This thing is the hottest stock on the block since joining the S&P 500. Our guy Alex Karp, the guy with the weird hair, he's a cool guy actually. Listen to a bunch of his interviews, and he has a good vision. And a lot of people are buying into the company either way, whether you like the guy or not. So that's where I say it's a great swing trade, but not every swing trade makes for a great day trade every day. This made for a good day trade because it broke over its initial resistance level and it played by the cyber clock. It moved up pretty nicely up until 10:20 in the morning. 10:20 in the morning, then it shook. But basically, even after that point, it continued with higher lows. For every time it did dip, it held at a higher point from the last dip point. So even now, this thing's in good standing, right? This thing hasn't crapped out yet. It's still building up a little bit. That to me, just I as a trader have to accept that not every stock is going to move up or down perfectly, like in an elevator or escalator, might I say. But just to mention that. With that said, since I kind of accept that, I visualize higher lows, and that gives me the thought of seeing the stock potentially making the higher high, potentially. So obviously needs to do it over time here, or the thought of it making lower low is still there. But otherwise, that's where even here, when this stock was moving kind of here at this point, 37.80, 37.75, the last dip point was 37.44, like this little area, right? So even if this thing went all the way back down here and then bounced back up, for anyone that's long from 37.70, they wouldn't be too happy. But otherwise, as far as seeing overall trend, that actually would still make this more of a double bottom than any sort of lower low. Now, since it didn't drop back down there yet, it based out more around this area. Notice that this has begun certainly to appear like more of a bottom building in here, more of a U-shaped pattern. So I wouldn't be looking for this stock to drop back down at 37.44 now. It already kind of held here at this point. So I really wouldn't even want it to drop back down at 37.58 again. The more it does that, it's going to crack. But since it kind of held higher again, it didn't break lower. There's the prospect of it making that next jump up. So as a trader, I kind of visualize on that more than anything. She says, I'll be listening on the road till 12:40 Eastern time. So actually, we just finished up our question just in freaking time. How about that? So if she's joining us on the road, whether it be on social media or if she's tapped into our live trading room right now, Carrie, I hope that you listen to that right there. If you're on recording, we always record our workshops, and if you're watching on recording, then just always feel free to shoot me a quick message the next day if you have any follow-up questions. All right, from Ron P, just a quick one from him. How many monitors do you use, and how are they configured? Very good question. So I do tend to go over this a bit as well. I always like to address this because in class, here we are. So in phase one, I tend to go over this more in the getting started class. Actually, Rich does a workshop a few times throughout the calendar year, and we'll get him scheduled to do it probably going into October, probably right before the Trader Summit. But I would say at least that, we'll discuss it in phase one coming up next month. But more or less, I'll give you the real answer here. So this is my trading. Well, this is for the trading room. So this is my trading platform. This is like what I'm actually trading off of throughout the day. I finally cleaned up my main platform. I've had it like messed up for like the longest time, and I've been a lazy little, So finally, I ended up tightening this up over the weekend. So this is my main trading platform. and then basically using that to enter my trades with. That's on this monitor here. And then I'm just dragging in bookmap, but I have the same exact monitor, like an HP. It's like a 27 or 30-inch HP, something like that, just right next to this one. So I'm using bookmap on my other screen here. At times, I'll intermittently float in my Benzinga Pro on that monitor too. So I'll kind of have that, again, on the right monitor here like that. What else? And then I got my laptop. If you're on YouTube right now, got my laptop right here. So, that's actually where I'm like using the trading room, and I'm kind of just looking at the trading room stuff, all my private chat stuff, and just where I'm typing to students on that monitor. And then I'm just kind of looking here as I'm doing my trading and my audio commentary. So that's me. I'm just only speaking as Josh, the trader here, but where we can kind of keep the conversation in relation to less is more. You do need to have more than one screen. You need to have more than just one. And actually, to put a little asterisk on that, I've worked with a couple students actually just this past week as well, I think two, that have a big singular monitor, but it's like the cool high-tech monitor. It's like the long monitor, and it stretches down. Like they're able to put like 3 or 2 different things on the screen. Basically, is the same thing as what I have here. My 2 monitors makes up for their 1. So if it's that type of monitor, then you're different. You're in different hands there. You're in better hands. But otherwise, if you're just working off just one laptop screen, or if you're working off of just one HP monitor, and it's not the wide one, it's not the crazy cool one, then I'd say that, you got to make sure you get a second one. I know we're all working on different budgets. I know everyone's, it's market's doing good, but it could be tough times for some people still. And I know that some people are, worrying about a recession going into next year, the year after that. So some people looking to be a little bit tight on money already. That's just where I say that in order to make money here, you got to at least give yourself decent equipment, right? How do I best phrase it? Just for any job that you're doing, you want to have at least pretty average to above average equipment at the minimum, if not top of the line. Again, we're on different budgets. So if you're not out there at the best trading computer of all time, if you're not out there, with like more than 2 monitors, that's fine. You don't need more than 2, in my opinion, but you need more than 1. For anyone more than 2, then you're in good hands. Hey, if you're on 3 monitors, 4 monitors, then I don't think that's too overwhelming. Just, you're probably already trained visually or with your eyes as far as how to react to everything going across the screen. But that's where I'll just tell you, though, certainly you don't really need more than 2. And if you're on 3 or 4, please, you definitely should not be going out and getting 5 or 6. You don't need 5, 6, 7, 8 monitors. That's where you're getting too crazy. That's where you're starting to watch way too much at once, and it's a detriment. Actually, here's how I phrased it recently. I did on a call last week with one of the students. So when I first started with Fausto, this was back in our Syosset, New York office. We're all remote now. But in Syosset, when I first took over as Fausto's lead instructor, I had, I think, 6 monitors on one stand. It was like a 6-monitor display. I felt like the coolest guy in the world, okay. So I have all these screens. It was the first time I ever had that, even just like from home to work. Like, wow, it's cool. Okay. One crapped out on me over time, then another did. So I was left with 4. And then I realized, like, I don't need 6. I don't need to have 6 in order to do what I do. But even to go into the conversation of like having, 6, 8, 12, 24 stocks up on one screen, you might think like, oh, I'll be able to watch more, I'll be able to do more. Let me tell you this. As Fausto's employee of CTU, I was doing such a good job as an employee. I was doing so good making all these call outs. I had 12 stocks up on one chart, or on one screen, I had 12 charts up, maybe even more at one point. And I was like making call outs like a machine gun inside our trading room. PLTR, NVIDIA, Intel, Coinbase, blah, 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 blah. And, you might think that we do that right now, right? Imagine back then when I had all that crap up on the screen. I was such a good employee. I was doing such a good job. That doesn't make me money within the stock market. It makes me money company. Doesn't make me money within my own trading, to make entries and exits. So for, as much as I realized, okay, I'm making these call outs, I wasn't able to focus in on the detailed specifics, like where the big icebergs are, where the big opening bell print is at 9:30, where new orders are on the book, where the orders were getting pulled. That's what Bookmap comes in handy for. But otherwise, you can't focus on like 20 different stocks on that. You can't focus on like 10 different stocks on that. You can only focus on so much. So that goes in a couple of ways. That goes in the way of like how many stocks can you have on one screen? Oh, you could have as much as you possibly can on one screen. Yeah, you'll be able to watch as much as you want. You're gonna be a great watcher. Be a great watcher out there. Not gonna be a great trader. I guarantee that part. So, that's where I say less is more when it comes to your ability to make an educated decision on risking money. That's where this trade right here has been playing out so damn nice, not only with the higher lows situation that we have here and make a higher high right now, right? Higher low, higher high right now as we're talking real time. But again, 3750 was our main level that we were in from phase two. We were focused in on this flipping into support, and it's been working out perfectly since. So, according to the game plan initially, that's what we're mainly focused on. We're expecting for this stock to make a move up to 38 next. That's where we have our next resistance, isn't it? Right here. All right. So I kind of went off on a small tangent there, Ron, but it kind of allowed me the chance to kind of make a big point just for everyone, not just you who had asked this great question, but really like everyone inside our live trading room. I think right now we have 136 right now back in our room, so a little bit more from earlier. This is where at this point here, like less is more, guys. You're hearing it from the horse's mouth right now. So let's see. We got a email from Andrew Keene. Andrew Keene, the instructor, actually. It's funny. It was Andrew Keene, but without the E at the end. Andrew K., one of our trial members here, still getting familiar with the C2 stock trading approach. Quick question from him. Can you recommend a best practice for calculating position size and stop loss for the low float stocks? Yes. Answer to that is yes. And I'm going to give you a real answer and just allow me to be Josh, the instructor, one more time here in Traders Talk today. But we're going to cover this all throughout our classes in phase two, coming up not this month, but next month in October. Setting stops, taking profits. That's where we talk more about at least the targets and the risk involved. But as far as position sizing, that too, even in our discipline and trading psychology class, we're going to spend a lot of time going over that because, just from the naked eye, just if you go back to TGL, the stock is cheap. It was moving up in pre-market, going into the market open session, at least higher lows, possible to make a higher high. So the stock's cheap. It's like, wow, I could do this on a lot of size. I could do this on like 10,000 shares, 5,000 shares. It's like not really going to be too overwhelming. Well, if that's how you think, and that's the only thought that goes into your reasoning for position sizing, you're going to be shocked when the stock ends up making a larger drop when you're not expecting it to, and all of a sudden that 5 or 7 pennies per share that you're down on is a hell of a lot more real money compared to it just being on the 1,000 shares that you're normally accustomed to trading. So this is where I'll just mention at first that if the stock is cheap, that doesn't mean that you should be increasing your size greatly. That's kind of like you just thinking more about the money at the end of the rainbow there instead of what it takes to get to that point. So keep in mind, we're focused more on the process rather than the end result when it comes to taking the trades. That's what allows us to get the end result. So that's where here, at least, for the stock, I'm more interested in where do I have resistance? Where do I see, support resistance? Where's the volume being traded at? Where's the VWAP? Things like that. But otherwise, whether it's NVIDIA or this, I'm more focused on exactly those things more than just the price. So meaning like, hey, if NVIDIA is making a great move, perhaps I'll take it on, very slightly larger size because of how confident I am in the levels in the order book. Maybe it's not moving as crazy on a given day compared to what it can normally do. Same to be said here. So like we know TGL is moving this morning and probably moving crazier than what it normally does. So think of it that way. Like, okay, this stock is more volatile compared to what it is doing on a day-to-day basis. I guarantee you that. Again, I don't drop the G word here too much in Traders Talk, but I guarantee that part. How do I know? Well, I'll just ask you. I'll ask everyone in our trading room here right now. When was the last time that you traded this stock? Treasure Global Inc. I want you to tell me. When was the last time you traded the stock? Before today. Before at least 4 a.m. Eastern time today, this Monday morning, September 23rd. When was the last time that you traded this stock? When was the last time, separate question, when was the last time that we even focused in on this as a viable day trade? I can't tell you that. I don't know. You tell me. And that means if the answer is never, because I mean, maybe, I mean, hey, it's possible we could have traded the stock, back in August 20th? Possible. Probably on our morning watch list, or it probably made our list at some point that day. But aside from that one, flash in the pan type day, yeah, this stock has only been dropping off. That's the first thing that you see. But otherwise, if you're not really too familiar with what the stock does day to day, and it's definitely making a better move compared to what it does on a day to day, then I'd rather not look to trade larger size right away at the, going into the open. Just because if the stock is cheap, that doesn't mean you could do that with great strategy. So, maybe there could be a double top breakout. Maybe there could be a strong retest of resistance in which you could try and take the trade from. So really here, once it kind of repopped 122, I jumped back in actually when it was pushing back up towards 127 here at this point. I didn't do a one shake. But at first here, 122 is the level I was looking at as far as like where we might see a clean breakout. That was more from the after hours. So that's the first thing that comes to mind, whether I'm doing this on a dollar stock or I'm doing it on a $116 stock like NVIDIA. If it's a clean setup, then I'll feel safer with trading my normal size. But then again, just because that's cheap doesn't mean I'm trading larger size. So if I'm up a decent chunk on my morning, if I'm up like 5 or 6, if I'm up days pay or more, even at that point, if I'm up much more than 5 or 600, then I'm not trying to give it all back like I'm Oprah. You know what I mean? I'm not just trying to give it all back. Like, oh, yep, here you go. No, but if I have the chance to take that trade on larger size and I set a damn tight stop and it's within good reasoning, then okay, at least there's more there's less risk involved, at least since you'd already made a good chunk on your morning. If the P&L is at zero, if you're down on the morning, you should not be trading more shares for any reason, whether whether the stock is cheap or whether the stock has a good setup or not. So even further here, that's where I'd say if you're down on your morning, that would be the last thing I'd want you to do. Try and trade more shares, because that's essentially like revenge trading in essence. Maybe if it's not on the same stock, but otherwise, if you're down and you're just trying to make your way back and you're doubling up on shares all of a sudden, you're not increasing your likelihood of making money. You're just increasing your risk. So that's where I'd say if you've made a good chunk of your morning already, a good chunk of money already on the morning, I should say. My tongue is getting tied now at this point. But it's to say that at least that, hey, if there's a stock retesting resistance and the more times it could retest pop, all right, that I have even more confidence with taking compared to like just typical higher low, higher high. If a stock is retesting a major resistance over a period of time. So maybe a Fausto flag would be a better example of that to tie it back to that example there. Where we have a Fausto flag on that APLD, it's not just, testing resistance once and that's it. It's retesting it numerous times in a small time span. That right there gives me great confidence with taking any trade. But if it's something that's just like moving up and it's like kind of just trending well, that doesn't give me like all the confidence in the world to double up on shares or to do more shares than my normal. That just gives me confidence to take the trade. You know what I mean? So there is something even more than just seeing a stock moving up that gives me confidence with expecting that big move shortly after. And, to go back to that last stock, I'm losing track of the ticker right there, TGL, just seeing it retest resistance multiple times in a smaller time span, that right there is kind of my creme de la creme as far as like entries go. But again, we're going to take a lot more time, Andrew, to talk about that all throughout our curriculum. Phase one, I invite you to join us over time here. I know that you're just a trial member joining us here, I believe, for this week. And then down the line, phase two. Phase two, we're kind of conducting right now. All right. Let's see really briefly. Luis, quick shout out to you. Missing you here. If she's joining us live, she might be at the doctor's. Wishing her well. So I think she'll be back later on today or otherwise perhaps tomorrow. So wishing her the best. Quick shout quick shout out to my guy, Patrick P. I know that he's recovering right now. He's joining us here and there, today and this week. And, he's kind of just getting back, to full health, full recovery. So I know that he's tuning in right now, I believe. So wishing him the best. And, otherwise, folks, if you have any other questions here in this live workshop, let me know. Just went through all the emails here, at least that I had prior. So if there's any other questions here for myself, definitely let me know here in chat. Back to PLTR, just smooth like Sunday morning. And I say that just again from the 3750. That's going to be such a great class for you to go back on in the recordings as well. Just basically from the end of the class, we were mentioning how, well, hey, the fact that this held over 3750 on the shake, that gives you the leverage to hang into this trade, to stay into this trade. I'm not going to be spooked out to only make 5 pennies per share. When a stock breaks through a big level and I jump in, I'm looking for a big move. So it's either going to work out or it's not. You know what I mean? Like, it's either going to work out in my direction or it's not. And I get stopped out. I'd rather go par. I'd rather go break even. I'd rather go par on the hole than certainly go double bogey. But then certainly I'd rather go par on this type of trade than, gain a couple pennies on the dollar. I'd rather try and shoot for that, for that double birdie here. And more often than not, as long as resistance can correctly flip into support, I'm going to be getting my double birdie. So, all right, folks, let me know if there's any other questions here before we finish up. Again, if you're new to our social media streams and platforms alike, I'm just going to type this out to you here as well, at CyberTradingU. I spelled that right. I did not go to the eye doctor to get my glasses over the weekend. I was supposed to. I did not. So, yeah, I got that right there for you. So at CyberTradingU, just feel free to follow, subscribe to all of our social media streams and platforms, YouTube, Facebook Live, X, LinkedIn, etc. Be a friend, tell a friend that we got a YouTube channel here as well. Spread the good word. And obviously here at stocks like PLTR, it gives us the power to follow the smart money. So that's what we pretty much do here on a day-to-day basis inside our live trading room. Obviously right now, this on the way up to $38. I would assume for this to hold a 38 resistance at first, maybe a false break initially, but then back down. We're going to come back on the audio side of things here later on today, just about an hour and a half from now, 2:30 Eastern, just for the afternoon meeting. So join us inside our live trading room directly for that meeting exactly, or exclusively, might I say. But otherwise, we do this workshop each and every Monday afternoon. So hope you stay forward with us going forward. And, hey, again, we'll see what's out there heading into the afternoon. But for all of us here inside our live trading room, Lynn and Randy, Charlene, DJ, Laureen, Gillis, got all of us here in chat. Hey, we'll see what's out there as well heading into the afternoon meeting. Take care.